Hi everyone, my name is Aurelie and I will be doing the online lectures for Language, Society and Power. So the lectures are primarily aimed for the online students, but really anyone can listen to them. I will be posting the lectures around Mondays usually, and I will send out an email once it's been uploaded. So for the online students, just do make sure that you listen to the lecture ahead of the tutorials on Wednesdays, and please also listen to the recorded lectures on Tuesdays ahead of Wednesday's tutorial. So before we get into the lecture contents today, I just want to go through some housekeeping. So I have sent the online students an email already outlining most of this, but I'll just reiterate some of that stuff just to make sure that everyone is on board and everyone knows what's happening. So first of all, please familiarize yourself with Canvas. This is where, and this is not just for this course, but for all of your units actually, this is where lecturers and tutors will post everything. So on Canvas, you will find your reading materials, you will find the lecture recordings that we put up. We will also be putting tutorial recordings as well on Canvas, and there's also a discussion board that's set up on Canvas. So that's important because that's one of your assignments involves using the discussion board. So if you don't know what Canvas is already, and if you don't know where to find Canvas, I've put a link here through the university website. Just make sure that you go on Canvas, you find your courses and just familiarize yourself with it. And for this course in particular, for the online students, just make sure that you find where the materials will be for the online students. So I would have already sent you an email about a group that he created specifically for the online students, and make sure that you know where that is, so you can have access to everything that you will need this semester. So again, I've mentioned this in the email that I sent last week, but I'll just reiterate this again. So for the online students, this applies to the face-to-face students as well, but so you will be put into one of two tutorial groups. So they are both on Wednesdays. So Wednesdays 1 to 2 p.m. and Wednesdays 3 to 4 p.m. Now, the tutorials for the online students will be online, and I'll get to how this will work in a sec. But make sure that when you are logging in for the tutorial, that you're logging into Australian Eastern Daylight Time, UTC plus 11 hours. So make sure that it is Sydney time when you log on at 1 p.m. or 3 p.m. on Wednesday. Again, you would have already been assigned to either the Wednesday 1 p.m. or Wednesday 3 p.m. tutorial time. Make sure that you only attend one of them. And if you have any issues with attending the one that is on your timetable, just send me an email and we can work it out. Now, so the online tutorials are going to be held via Zoom. Zoom is an app. It's free to use. So I've said here there's an option for you to sign up. So to use Zoom to attend the tutorials online, you don't need to create an account. But you can if you want. All you have to do is just make sure that you install the app. So I've put a link here. This is from the university website. You will find the link for Zoom all the way down, so make sure you scroll all the way down to the page to find the specific link to install Zoom. Once you've installed the app, make sure that you familiarize yourself with it before the Wednesday tutorials. So it works by, you will need an invitation ID, which I will send today. So for each tutorial, you will need to use that same meeting ID. And what it is I will set up a meeting, and then using the meeting ID, you will join the meeting. So for Wednesday, the only thing that you really need to know how to use is essentially the microphone. But later on throughout the semester, you will also be using the share screen options when we do presentations, but we will get to that when we get there. So for Wednesdays, just download and install Zoom, and just play around with it just to see how it works. And if you can, try it with someone. That's also a good idea. So now I'll just explain what the course is about in a nutshell. So Language, Society and Power is a project-based unit. So for the entire semester, what we want you guys to do is to be able to produce something. So this course is primarily focused on creating and designing materials rather than simply writing reports and academic papers. So we will be getting you to do things. Which is going to be probably, I'm going to say, a bit different to your other units. So in terms of the assignment, so you can find this on the unit of study outline on Canvas. Again, if you haven't logged on to Canvas, please do so. You will find all this stuff is literally, like, everything is on Canvas, but just to tell you guys what it's about. So like I said, this is a project-based unit. So all of your assignments, so all 3 of them, are geared towards creating materials to address a need, an issue, problem in the community of your choosing, in the language of your choosing. So the community that you choose to work with can be in Australia, it can be in China, it can be anywhere in the world, really. And it can be in any language that you want, or the language that the community speaks. So for project 1, so this is the main project for the semester, and the end result is essentially you producing a material that you have designed to address a specific issue, a specific need in your chosen community. And again, we'll work with you throughout the semester, help you choose an appropriate project that you can do in that time, and I'll go through this more on Wednesday. But at the end of the semester, what you will do is you will present the material that you created. The material could be a poster, it could be an online page, lots of options. In addition to creating something to address a particular need in a specific community, you will also be writing a report. And the report is essentially you describing how you carried out your project. So again, we'll give you more information about this later, but you will just tell us what community you decided to work with, what issue you wanted to address, and what material you designed to address this issue. And there's also a little bit of reflection as well of how it was for you to do this. The third component of the assignment is the online discussion. So this allows everyone to engage in the discussion about your projects. So and this is especially good for this semester because we have people who are overseas at the moment. So the online discussion board allows everyone to see what everyone else is doing. And over the semester, you will see posts on the online discussions. So sometimes Amma will post, for example, questions, or it gives you a chance to get some advice on something that you're working on. So please make sure that you know where to find the online discussion board. So this is on Canvas, and there's already a couple of posts there, so just do have a look at that. Now, so we'll get into the main content of the lectures. What I'm going to go through today, I'm going to show you an approach that we want you guys to take when you are designing your project. And this approach is called the credible approach. And I will also go through a particular framework that we want you guys to use called PDA. But to start with, so the credible approach was developed by Associate Professor Amar Mahboob. So you guys would have received emails from him already. So he is the coordinator for Language Study and Power. He is also the coordinator for the master's course. And it's essentially a way of creating projects where the primary aim is to support local needs. So that's why in the assignment descriptions, we say that you need to work with a specific community, because in doing credible projects, it needs to address the local needs. So you need to know what the community needs, and the best way to know what the community needs is to get involved with them. So credible is an acronym, and I'll go through each of these in a sec, and I'll provide you an example of what a credible project is, and go through each of the letters. Again, your projects will be credible projects. So C stands for contextually relevant, R stands for response to theoretical and practical needs, E engages stakeholders, D draws on an understanding of local knowledge and practices, I is informed by global approaches and experiences, B benefits local communities, L leads a field or discipline and contributes to the larger global theories, and E, perhaps the most important, is that your projects need to be ethical. Now, let's look at an example. This is a real-life example of a credible project. So as I go through this, just maybe start thinking about something that you might want to do. So the particular project that I want to show you guys as an example is an app that was designed. So Smiling Mind is a mindfulness app. So this is an app that you can download if you want to. I've also put the link here if you want to look at the website. But Smiling Mind is a mindfulness app that helps people with depression and anxiety. And on the app there are various like exercises that you can do. Now the NPYWC, so these women in this specific council in Central Australia, which is in this red rectangle here, they designed a series of exercises to address mental health issues in Indigenous communities in Central Australia. So they designed this series that they then put on the app Smiling Mind. So if you have a look at the Smiling Mind app, you will actually find this, the exercises that they designed. So now let's go through the acronym of CREDIBLE and understand how this app, how it's credible, what makes it credible. So let's start with C. So C stands for contextually relevant. So in creating a project, you need to make sure that it is contextually relevant. And for the Smiling Mind app that was created to address Indigenous issues, well, it's contextually relevant because it was designed to address issues in 28 Indigenous communities in Central Australia. So in this little red rectangle region right here between Western Australia here, Northern Territory here, and South Australia here. So the app is contextually relevant. So when you are designing or thinking about a project that you would want to work on, you have to make sure that it's contextually relevant, that it's going to address something in a particular context. Now, R stands for response to practical needs. So the Smiling Mind app was designed to combat mental health issues in these 28 Indigenous communities by using techniques such as mindfulness and breathing exercises. Again, so when you're thinking about your project, you need to make sure that it's responding to an actual practical need. And again, the best way to know what a practical need is to get in contact with the community and talk to them and see what they need. Okay, E. E stands for engaging stakeholders. So in developing the Smiling Mind app, there were different stakeholders that were involved. So you had the traditional healers called Ngaanyatjarra, you had interpreters, and you had Western mental health professionals. So all these people worked together to create this app. And again, if you want to have a look at the app, you can of course download it. But so when you're looking at your project, you need to make sure that you are engaging stakeholders as well. So we will talk about this more on Wednesdays, but we will ask you guys to actually get in contact with someone in that community, and you will be asked to work with them, because again, the best way to know what a practical need is for a specific community is to engage with stakeholders in that specific community. Now D, so D stands for drawing on understanding of local knowledge and practices. So in designing the apps, knowledge was drawn from both Western psychologists and health professionals, along with knowledge that was combined with traditional healers to create this culturally appropriate app. So they didn't just have Western psychologists and Western health professionals to create the app, but because this was an app that was meant for the Indigenous communities, they also had to work with traditional healers as well to make sure that the app was culturally appropriate for the Indigenous peoples there in that region. So again, when you are thinking about your project, it's a good idea, and well, not a good idea, but we will encourage you to not only look at Western theories and Western knowledge, but anything really, and to read. And one of the things that we will get you guys to do in a few weeks' time is to do a literature review. And one of the things that we will emphasize is that doing a literature review doesn't necessarily mean looking at academic papers and stuff like that. So that will tie into this drawing on understanding of local knowledge, because you will have to read stuff from that specific community. And again, it might not be in English, it might not be from the Western world, it can be from anywhere, in any language of your choosing. So yeah, keep that in mind. Moving on. So credible. So I stands for informed by diverse approaches and experiences. So in the Smiling Mind app, we have both traditional Indigenous approaches and Western approaches that were used. Also, I need to mention one thing as well. So you might notice that in going through this acronym, that I might be repeating things over and over again. So there are things that do overlap. So I've gone through this again in the previous slide in talking about drawing on understanding of local knowledge and practices, and that's fine. So credible is it's a whole approach to doing things. So it does make sense that a lot of the letters here will overlap. So we are I. So I, so it stands for informed by diverse approaches and experiences. So again, in the app, they use traditional approaches from the Indigenous communities as well as Western health professionals. So let me give you a little bit of more background about the app itself. So the Smiling Mind app was part of a bigger program aimed at improving education around mental health and well-being called Uti Kuling Jaku, which is translated to think and understand clearly. So that was the bigger program, and the app was one aspect of that program. So, and the app was an approach to both improve education around mental health and to also combat mental health issues. And so this is important. So in terms of what we mean by informed by diverse approaches and experiences, so again, this ties back to the previous slide about how you don't only have to read about academic papers and see how we do things in the academic community, but it's possible or very likely that in the community that you will be working on, they have their own ways of dealing with issues, of addressing needs. So when you are thinking about your projects, talk to, so we will ask you to talk to someone in the community. So ask them about tell them that, so ask them what issue that is present in the community, but also ask them how they would deal with it. So then you can talk to them and see how they would approach things, and then with the knowledge that you will gain throughout the semester, you can bring in your knowledge, your approaches, and your experiences as well to create this project. Now, so B stands for benefits to local communities. So this is very important. This is, so like I said at the start, the credible approach is an approach to creating projects that at its core addresses local community needs. And in addressing a local community need, you need to make sure that the community is benefiting from this project. So again, looking at the Smiling Mind app, this app was specifically designed to benefit the local Indigenous communities of Central Australia to combat mental health issues. So because the app was designed to address the mental health issues in Central Australia, the app is going to, well, I don't want to say automatically benefit the community, but if you create a project or an intervention or a program that is going to address a local need, a local community need, then automatically by designing that program, they will benefit from it. So that's why for the project, we want you guys to create things for specific community, because what happens in academia, you will have academics or researchers that go to a specific community, and then they decide that the community needs A or B or C, but it might not be what the people actually need. So by engaging with the stakeholders, by getting in contact with the community, you can really understand what their needs are, and then that will make sure that what you're creating is going to benefit them in a way. So again, keep this in mind as I go through the slides, and keep this in mind for Wednesday and in the next few weeks, where we will get you guys to start to think about what is something that you might want to work on. So we are getting to the end of the acronym. L. So L stands for leading the field or discipline and contributing to the larger global theories. So the Smiling Mind app was initially developed in, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this right, but Ngaanyatjarra and Pitjantjatjara. Then working with school staff and communities in Gilmingan in the Northern Territory, the meditations were also translated in Creole. So this is a really good example of how something small, something that starts out small, can actually spread to becoming something bigger. And that's something that I will address on Wednesday in the tutorial. So yes, it shows how the project expanded to also include another language and a new set of users, which is children. So again, it was initially but it was initially created to address mental health issues, mostly for the adults, but then seeing how it was successful, they then decided to translate the meditations of a Smiling Mind app into different languages, and also to use it in schools so that children could also benefit from it. So this shows how when we create a project that addresses practical needs, the project has the potential to expand and be used in new contexts. And when something is expanding and used in new contexts, so it's contributing to larger global theories. So one of the things that we will be talking about on Wednesday, but also I'll go through it next, is this idea of analysis and design, meaning we can look at a project that has been successful and analyze how it's been successful, and then use that to then be used in a different context. And this is what this last point here means. So this, the app was created initially in these two Indigenous languages in a specific community, but then they saw how successful it was and they decided to expand it. And that's really important because we will be getting you guys to do projects that are achievable, obviously, for the semester, but we will really be emphasizing the fact that you can't, this project that you will be creating isn't meant to change the world, and that is not necessarily a bad thing. So you can create a project that is small, but then it ripples out and it can be expanded to new contexts. So yeah, it's gonna be good. I hope you guys enjoy doing this project. Now getting to the last letter of our acronym, so ethical. E stands for ethical. So the app was created to address local needs. So that was mental health issues in Central Australia. And it was done by working with local stakeholders. So this was done in an ethical manner. People were not just consulted in designing the app, but it was people in that community themselves who decided to do this app. And they worked with the different stakeholders that I talked about earlier, so Western health professionals and traditional healers as well. But so when you are creating your projects, it's important that you are ethical in the way that you do it. So I'm sure you guys have read research and studies where being ethical means to simply get people to read a consent form and sign it. And being ethical goes beyond that. Being ethical means that you're not just getting people to sign their consent, but being ethical means that you are doing something that will help the local community, that will benefit them in a way. And that's what your projects will be about as well. Yeah, so that's essentially what the acronym stands for, credible. And again, I'm not expecting you guys to have figured out exactly what you want to do yet, but just keep that in mind. And essentially the main point here that I want you guys to take home is that the credible approach to doing projects is to make sure that when you're creating a project that it's addressing a specific need or problem or issue in a given community, because that way we can ensure that it will benefit the local community. And also engaging with them, working with them in creating or designing the materials that you will be doing throughout the semester. Okay, so now we'll move on to the second half of the lecture. So credible informs us of the kinds of projects we need to be designing. Again, projects that address local community needs. So how is it that we design these projects? What tools do we use to design this project? Well, the one that we will be using and focusing on this semester is called Positive Discourse Analysis, or PDA. So think of the credible approach of the broader, this is what's driving you to create the projects that you are creating. But once you've identified your need, your community, how do you then create this project? Well, you do this by using PDA. So I'll go through what PDA is and how exactly we can use that to create credible projects. So just a little bit of background to start with. So it was first coined by Professor James Martin, and he said that PDA was a way of designing projects to make the world a better place. Again, really tying it with the credible approach. So Professor James Martin works here at the University of Sydney in the linguistics department, and when you guys you get to Sydney, you might get to meet him, and he also teaches in the department as well. So Mahbub, so Amma, distinguishes between two types of PDAs. He distinguishes between a broad PDA and a narrow PDA. So narrow PDA, in doing narrow PDA, you will need analytical tools and trainings to analyze materials. But what we will be focusing on this semester is broad PDA. So Boom explains broad PDA as having two goals. So analyzing examples of successful projects and then using what we've learned from these successful examples to create new projects. So when you guys are creating your projects, you will be using the broad PDA approach. So first, we'll look at successful projects of a similar nature, and this doesn't necessarily have to be projects in the same community, but you might, for example, say if you're looking at, you decide to look at littering in a community in, I don't know, say Thailand. So if there's a town in Thailand, there's lots of littering. And then you happen to find a program that was done in a different country, targeting littering, and that program was successful. So what you can do is actually look at that successful project in that different country, see how it is that they've addressed this problem, and then use what you've learned to then address your littering issue in Thailand. And we will be really talking about this analysis and design feature throughout the semester. So they both go hand in hand, analysis and design. So in a second, I will go through an example of how broad PDA can be used. So I'll be showing you an example, this poster, and how it is that we can analyze it if we want to create a program of a similar nature. Well, not program, but project. So during broad PDA, there are two things that we need to do. So first of all, so again, like I said, broad PDA says analysis and design. So you need to first choose something, a project that's been successful, and then you need to analyze it and then see how you can use it to to design a new project. And in analyzing this successful project, this successful material, you will need to answer these questions. So these are some questions that will help you to understand how it is that the project has been successful and how you can use the project to design a new one. So again, I'll go through this in a second with the poster I just showed you guys, but in addition to these questions, what you will also be doing is filling out a form. So broad PDA means understanding how the thing we are analyzing uses or invokes our material senses in relation to and to influence our attitudes, beliefs, values, etc. And this is what the form looks like. So first, you pick a project that's been successful. You answer these questions about it. And then you complete this form to understand how it is that they've used these 5 material senses: sight, sound, smell, touch, taste, and what meanings that each of these senses make. So let's look at an example. So the example we will look at today is this poster. Let me get up. Okay. Alright, so this is the poster that we'll analyze. So for example, I am wanting to address smoking in a community of my choosing. So what I will do is I will look at how other communities have addressed smoking in their communities. So for example, I want to look at how can we encourage pregnant women to quit smoking when they're pregnant. And what I've chosen here is this poster. So how is it that this poster is successful in encouraging pregnant women that smoke to give up smoking, and how can we use what we've learned from this poster to design a new poster for a different community? Well, first of all, like I said, we need to answer the questions, and these questions tell us what the poster is and how it does things. So first of all, what is the name of the thing that you're analyzing? So thing is whatever that you are using as an example to analyze. So I am using this poster as an example, but it could be something else. It could be a video, it could be a TV ad, it could be a radio ad, it could be anything really. So the main point is that you need to find something that's been successful, answer these questions to then use to design something else. So this is a quit for you, quit for two poster. Here we go. Describe the thing. So this is one of the materials that was designed for the Quit for You, Quit for Two campaign. So in Australia, there was a campaign called Quit for You, Quit for Two, and it was targeted at pregnant women. And this was just one of the materials from there, this poster. So is this part of a larger campaign? Well, yes, this is part of Australia's national tobacco campaign, which targets smoking in Australia in general. But this particular one, Quit for You, Quit for Two, was designed specifically for pregnant women. If yes, what other things are part of this campaign? Provide an overview of the materials included in the campaign and highlight how many materials you will analyze. So the National Tobacco Campaign features 8 campaigns with various materials. So they have posters, TV ads, radio ads, fact sheets, apps that you can use as well. The National Tobacco Campaign itself is part of Australia's broader tobacco control, which includes policies and legislations about smoking and smoking cessation products such as nicotine gum and patches. So this is a poster that is part of the Quit for You, Quit for Two campaign. The Quit for You, Quit for Two campaign is part of the National Tobacco Campaign. But again, yours doesn't have to be as big as this. This is of course a national campaign, but it doesn't have to be. I'm simply using this as an example to show you how something that has been successful can be used to design a new project. So what are the goals of the thing? So what's the goal of this poster? So the poster and the Quit for You, Quit for Two campaign in general aims to encourage pregnant women to quit smoking for their benefit and for the benefit of their unborn baby. So this is what this poster is doing. It's trying to encourage pregnant women to quit smoking for themselves and for their unborn baby. Now, so then there you have some questions about the context in which this was created. So who created this campaign and this poster? It was the Australian government. Why was it created? So it was created to encourage pregnant women, as well as their partners, to quit smoking for their benefit and the benefit of their babies. Where was it created? So this one was created in Australia, and it was created in 2011. So when you're analyzing your successful project to use as an example, this is how you'll be answering these questions to help you with designing a new project. Okay, so are there any external references? Well, not for this one. And then, so why do you think that this thing, so in my case, my thing is a poster. Why do I think that it's been successful? So you can go, I haven't gone into a lot of detail here. I just wanted to show you guys briefly how to fill out the form. But in explaining any of these questions, and in explaining how it's been successful, you can go into as much detail as you like. And in answering these questions, you will actually have to read about the thing that you're analyzing. So this is where your literature review will come in, which we we'll talk about in the coming weeks, about how you would do a literature review. So I have already done my literature review, so I can answer all of these questions. So why do I think that it's been successful? So I think this is successful because, first of all, the Quit for You, Quit for Two campaign was launched nationally on TV, on radio, on posters. And these posters were placed in places like hospitals and GP, meaning that it had a wide reach, targeting as many people as possible. So for me, this is one of the reasons why it's been successful, is because it reached a lot of people. So it was launched nationally. But again, your project that you're analyzing, your program that you're analyzing, doesn't have to be a national or federal campaign. It could be something that was launched in a specific small community, and that is fine. And of course, I could go on as to why it's been successful, but just to give you guys an example, and also I could say, for example, another reason why it's been a success is perhaps because of, using this photo of this woman, and she's smiling, she looks happy, which kind of tells us that if you stop smoking, you'll be happy and your baby will be happy. So I could go on here. Now, another thing that we need to fill out is the form. So in filling out this form, so again, this PDA form is a way of understanding how our 5 material senses are being used in the thing that you are analyzing. So in my poster, how is it that our sense of sight is being used? Well, in that particular poster, we can see written language here. So written language is one thing that we see. We also see the image of the pregnant woman. And another thing as well that I thought was good to mention was the colors. So another thing that we see are the colors. The colors are light and they are pale colors. Now, what meanings are being projected by these 3 things here? Well, using the language explains how pregnant women can manage their cravings for smoking and the benefits of not smoking during pregnancy. So the language is explaining to pregnant women how it is that they can manage their craving of smoking and why smoking is good for them and for their baby. So how is the image of the pregnant woman being used? So the woman is smiling and looking down at her belly, and that creates a positive atmosphere. So as I was saying before, this image is essentially saying, hey, if you stop smoking while you're pregnant, you too can be happy like me. And what about those light and pale colors? Well, these colors, if you look at them, they are very gentle and calming. They create this positive, gentle, calming feeling, which is something that you need, of course, when you're pregnant. So that is how sight is being used. What about sound? Well, in this particular example, there is nothing here that's evoking our sense of sound, and that is okay. When you are analyzing your thing, you might not have it might not be evoking all of those 5 senses, and that's fine. So for example, if I had a TV ad or radio ad, I might be hearing lots of things. I might hear people talking, there might be a voiceover, a narrator, there might be background noises such as music, and all these would have their specific meanings, but here there isn't one. And smell as well, there isn't one, but smell can be evoked in different ways. So if there was maybe if there was a cigarette, if she was smoking a cigarette, then I could say that it's invoking a sense of smell, and that the meaning that is being projected is that smoking smells bad, but not in this case. What about touch? Well, touch here, if you look at the image, the woman is holding her belly. She's got both hands on her belly. And so what meanings is that being projected? So it evokes the sensation of pregnant women holding their bellies, and the feelings, these positive feelings that they would feel when holding their baby. So they might, for example, be feeling their baby's move or kick. And again, these are all positive things, because if you can feel your baby moving, kicking, tells you that your baby is, it's healthy. And this again encourages other pregnant women to quit smoking during pregnancy. What about the last one, taste? Again, there's nothing really in this poster that's invoking or influencing our sense of taste, but maybe, we could say, for example, drinking water could be one, but not really in this case. Maybe if they were talking about cravings in terms of food, then yes, but this is craving in terms of cigarettes, and there really isn't much that's invoking the sense of taste. And again, that is okay. You might not tick all of these boxes for the thing that you're analyzing. So that's how you would do it. So again, mine is quite brief. You would go into more detail, but so after I've answered these questions and filled out the this form, I would use this information then to design a poster targeting a different community, targeting pregnant women in a different community who are smoking while pregnant. And so I don't have an example here today about design, but over the semester we will go through that. So yeah, so Broad PDA is used for both analyzing projects and designing new ones. And during the semester, we will learn how to do both. So for the tutorial on Wednesdays, this coming Wednesday, we will talk about this again. So I know that this is a lot, that I went through quite a lot today, and this is essentially what you will be doing for the entire semester. This lecture was essentially just a broad overview of everything we'll be doing, everything we'll be working on. So it's okay if you didn't understand everything. So it's okay if you don't remember what each of the acronym of credible stands for. It's okay if you don't really understand how Broad PDA can be used to analyze and design projects. That's okay. But I guess the take-home message that I want you guys to have is, so first of all, when you are thinking about the project that you'll be working on the material that you'll design, make sure that it is responding to specific need in a community of your choosing, and that whatever you design, you need to work with someone in that community, making sure that what you are designing will benefit them. And then in creating that material, we will be using Broad PDA as a way to help us design these materials. So that's just a very broad overview today. Don't panic if you have questions. We'll go through this again on Wednesday, and we'll go through this in the coming weeks as well. So you will have lots of support in designing your projects. And yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoy it. Now, one last thing before I end this. So before the tutorial on Wednesday, please read chapter 7, so sex education. So again, this is on Canvas, so I've put the site here so that you guys know where it is. So this has all of the materials that you will be reading this semester. So on Wednesday, I will show you what a successful project was that one of the students from last year did. So you have an idea of what we mean by a project and what we mean by a successful one. So please do read this. And if you have any questions ahead of Wednesday's tutorials, please let me know. But again, just please ensure that you download Zoom and you familiarize yourself with using it, because that's how we will be communicating for all of the online stuff. And yeah, so that's all from me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing all of you on Wednesday. So I hope you guys have a good start of the week. And yeah, see you then.